November 9th, 1979, America. A computer screen showed something impossible. Nuclear missiles, already launched. This wasn't a warning. This was confirmation. Colorado Springs, Cheyenne Mountain, an underground bunker, watching the sky. And what it saw meant only one thing. War had already begun. And the worst part, it all looked completely real. No time to verify, only time to decide. Respond or wait. Because if this was real, millions would die. And if it was wrong, you start the war yourself. And for a few minutes, America believed it was under attack. Right now, there are systems watching the sky. Not sometimes, not occasionally, every second. Tracking movement, measuring patterns, looking for anything that shouldn't be there. Because in a world of nuclear weapons, there is no room for delay. If something appears on that screen, there are only minutes to respond. And there was a moment when those systems didn't hesitate. They didn't question. They didn't doubt. They said one thing: it has begun. To understand what happened, you have to understand the world they were living in. This wasn't peace. This was the Cold War. A quiet tension that never really went away. Two sides, constantly watching each other, constantly preparing, constantly expecting the worst. Nuclear weapons had changed everything. War was no longer about territory, or power, or even victory. It was about survival. Because if it started, there would be no winner. That's why the systems were built. Not for comfort, not for convenience, but for one purpose: to detect an attack before it arrives. Massive radar installations, early warning satellites, command centers buried deep underground, all connected, all designed to answer one question: is this real? Because once missiles are launched, there is no time to wait. You either respond immediately, or you don't respond at all. And then, it happened. Not slowly, not gradually, instantly. A signal appeared, then another, then more. The system wasn't uncertain. It wasn't confused. It was clear. Missiles had been launched. Not one, not two, multiple, heading toward the United States. In that moment, time stopped feeling normal, because everything was happening faster than thought. The system had done its job. It had detected the threat. Now it was up to humans to decide what to do next. And they had minutes, not hours, not even enough time to fully understand. This is where the real pressure begins. Because there are only two possibilities. Either the attack is real, or it isn't. If it's real, you must respond immediately, because waiting means losing everything. But if it's not real, responding would start a war that didn't exist. And once that begins, there's no stopping it. Inside the control room, there were no politicians, no speeches, no time for discussion, just trained professionals. People who had prepared for this exact scenario. People who knew what the data meant, and people who understood what was at stake. The system showed everything they expected to see: trajectory, speed, impact estimates. It looked real, too real. Because in training, this is exactly what an attack would look like. And that's what made it dangerous. And then, something small happened. Not enough to prove anything, but enough to question. No external confirmation, no secondary signals, no physical evidence. Just data. Perfect, clean data. And sometimes, perfect data is the first sign something is wrong. In that moment, hesitation became everything. Because hesitation is not part of the system. Systems don't hesitate. They process. They calculate. They decide. But humans pause. And that pause is what saved everything. Because if they had followed the system, the response would have been immediate. Missiles launched in return. Targets locked. Chain reaction initiated. And within minutes, a war would have started. Not because of an enemy, but because of a mistake. Then, slowly, the pattern changed. Signals stopped aligning. The data no longer made sense. And piece by piece, the truth became clear. This wasn't an attack. It was a simulation. A training scenario, accidentally running inside a real system. Think about that. For those few minutes, the United States believed it was under attack. Not as a possibility, not as a scenario, as a reality. And the only thing that prevented disaster was doubt. After that moment, something shifted, because the danger was no longer just external. It wasn't just about enemies anymore. It was about systems, technology, automation, and the assumption that what we see on a screen is always true. Because this wasn't the last time. There were other moments, other false alarms, other close calls, each one different, but all connected by the same idea. When systems fail, they don't always look broken. Sometimes, they look perfectly correct. Today, the systems are more advanced, faster, more intelligent, more automated than ever before. And that makes them more powerful. But it also makes them more dangerous. Because the faster a system reacts, the less time humans have to question it. So the real fear isn't failure, it's confidence. It's the moment when everything looks right, but isn't. When the system is certain, but wrong. So now the question isn't, could this happen again? Because it already has. The real question is, when it does, will we recognize it in time? Or will we trust the system without hesitation? Because the first time America thought it was under attack, nothing had actually happened. But next time, we might not get the chance to realize that. For those few minutes, the world almost changed. But nothing had actually happened. No missiles, no war, just a system that believed it was real. And for a moment, so did we. The only thing that stopped it was hesitation. Not intelligence, not technology, but doubt. Because the real danger wasn't the enemy, it was the system. So next time, when something feels real, will we stop or will we trust it again?